Okay, it is time for Chapter 7 of Gutters. Okay, let's start. Hang on. Oof. Okay, little else makes Sealand more nervous than the sight of blood does. Spiders are high up on the list, as is Arthur's cooking in Burwald's timeout box, if only because it means he has done something wrong and is in trouble. He doesn't mind being scolded so much. Words are only words, and carry little water, after all, and really, his parental figures have off methods of punishment to begin with. In many ways, he has no reason to complain. Latvia has it much worse if his tremors are any indication that he knows why, has been known to stand in the corner for hours at a time after any misbehavior. So really, his only list truly consists of spiders and blood. Blood doesn't just make him nervous. Growing up when he did, the mere sight of it makes his chest tighten and his muscles seize up until it is cleaned up or he's pulled far enough away to be unable to see, smell, or feel it. He hates the shade of it, the copper-laden scent as well. Even small paper cuts put him in a poor state should they yield tiny beads, and he is always careful to keep band-aids with him just in case such a thing should occur while playing or sneaking into meetings. He just doesn't like it. It's nothing but a reminder of the war to him, and while he may never exactly have been on the front lines, it brings the ghost of England in his pressed uniform, looking harrowed and bruised while he tried to hide his injuries. He doesn't like blood because it reminds him of how vulnerable they really are. This time is no different. The first cough is hard enough that he doesn't even see the way the blood splatters in a small line of stipple dots at his feet, only that it is a sudden and unwelcome contrast to everything else around them. It is an angry stripe of blatant wet red in their otherwise gray, dusty little world, and it halts him immediately in front of Denmark, wide-eyed in the front, with the front of his coat clutched in his hands, as he watches him nearly lose his balance and another violent shudder. He wants to move. He wants to step over the line of red and touch Denmark, but his feet are rooted firm, and he only watches Denmark clamp a hand over his mouth, still on his elbows and knees, trying to regain his breath, but only coughing harder until the red is staining his palm and dribbling out between his fingers. The blood drops to the concrete in perfect little spheres, somehow more graceful than the first furious arc, but no less mortifying. Peter swallows hard and tries to move forward with no success. Denmark has his eyes pinched shut, but keeps trying to say something, words that are immediately lost in the hollow, wet rattling of his chest, and Peter is pretty sure he's trying, and failing, to wave it off. Probably trying to tell him not to pay to not pay it any mind. Oh, jeez. Too stupid to ask for help. He bites the inside of his cheek and finally forces himself to step over the splatters of blood just as Denmark starts to get his composure back. He stays on his knees and bows his head between his arms, hand dropped away from his mouth onto the street, leaving another streak as he draws it back to shakily push himself upright and spits into the ash. More red in the gray. "We have to keep moving," he rasps. His boots scrape against the concrete when he wobbles to his feet. "Gotta keep moving." Peter grabs his dusty coat sleeve and stares up at him seriously. "What was that?" he asks, quiet and trying still not to panic. What's wrong with you?" Denmark wipes his mouth with the back of his hand. "Nothing. There isn't anything wrong with me. Now, come on. It's going to be dark in a few hours, and if we don't have our pack, we need to go." He moves to try and hold Peter's hand. This action, for whatever reason, ignites anger in him that overpowers his anxiety by tenfold, and he snatches his hand away. "No!" he cries. "Not until you tell me what's wrong with you." He fists Denmark's jacket and yanks him forward, stumbling, to the open car door, where he pushes him to sit down, surprised at how easy a task it is. He pushes down on Denmark's shoulders and pulls back just enough to search his face, carefully blank, and bites his lip. "You're sick, aren't you?" Denmark says nothing. "You have what that old man has." Again, silence. Peter balls his hands and takes a step back. "Answer me! Tell me what," he yells. "Tell me what's wrong with you." "Peter." Denmark's voice is flat, and he reaches out again to take his hand. "Don't shout. Those people still might be looking for us." He winds their fingers together and stares intently at him while pulling him closer again. "And I'm fine. I'm still walking, ain't I?" He tries to smile, but barely manages a thin smirk. "You don't gotta worry." For a moment, Peter just gapes at him, furious, before he snaps their hands apart. "Stop doing that! Stop pretending nothing's wrong." He shoves his palm in front of Denmark's face. Each finger of his glove is dappled with blood. "You can't just ignore it when something's wrong with you." Denmark just looks at his outstretched hand for a long moment. He still wears the same cautiously expressionless face as he contemplates an answer, and after several terse beats, he finally sighs and lays the rifle out in his lap. "I don't know what's wrong," he says. "It's just like this sometimes." My voice cracks. "Are gross." Oof, okay. I got off topic. Back to the story. "Like what?" "Hard to breathe, hard to walk." Sealand swallows. "Does it happen a lot?" "Problems breathing?" "No." "Oh." Denmark turns his palm over and looks at the red stains in his gloves. "That." He wipes his hand on his pants. "Sometimes." "How often?" "Peter." "Tell me!" He exhales noisily. "I don't know, sometimes, whenever I run too much." He runs a hand through his hair and looks at him. "But I told you, you don't gotta worry about me. I'm dealing with it and I'm gonna be fine." "Until you go Sealand scowls. "Until you go blind and can't walk anymore and you die." "I'm not going to die." "You don't know that." "Yes, I do." "How?" "I have to take care of you." He manages a lopsided smile. "I can't die until I know you're safe." "How are you supposed to do that if you can't breathe?" Denmark doesn't have an answer for that. Peter crouches down and angrily swings his backpack around to his front and begins to rummage around it. "Papa Burwald and Uncle Norway were right. You're so stupid." He pulls out a greasy pillowcase and stands back up, stalking over to stand in front of Denmark and yanking something black out of the case and snapping it over his face before he can protest. "Wear this." Denmark blinks at him and brushes his fingers against the smooth, dark plastic of the mask over his mouth and nose. His brow comes together, and even without seeing his whole face, Peter knows that he is frowning. You had a respirator mask this whole time?" he asks, the anger in his voice muffled by the mask. "Why haven't you been wearing it?" "I got it from a kid in Poland who was in the bunker with me." He crosses his arms and glares defiantly at Denmark. Oof. Hang on. This might have to be a two-parter. Oof, I'm honestly not sure. Okay. You know what? Maybe not. We've got like 10 minutes left. Okay. "I caught it from a kid in Poland who was in the bunker with me." He crosses his arms and glares defiantly at Denmark. And I wasn't wearing it because I was saving it for an emergency. You stupid little... You need to put this on right now. He starts to remove it. If I would have known you had this, I wouldn't have been dragging you around in the ash with a... Oh boy, I can't say that. Freaking bandana. Not while everyone else is awake. Oh boy. Peter darts forward and slaps his hands away from the mask's straps. No! I'm giving it to you! He shoves Denmark's hands into his lap and forces the bag of spare filters between his fingers. You're the one barfing up blood, not me. Peter, it's not safe to be walking around with just a rag over your mouth. If you wear this, it'll keep you protected until we can get somewhere safe. He starts to reach for the ties again. This time, Seelan grabs his wrists and just holds them in midair, a pained expression on his face as he stares down at him. I can't find anywhere safe without you, stupid. He pauses and lets go of his hands just long enough to wrap his arms around Denmark's neck and hug him tightly. I don't want you to die, he whispers. I don't want to be alone anymore. I can't do this by myself. He sniffles and presses his face into the ash-streaked crook of Denmark's neck. Please don't die, Uncle Denmark. He feels Denmark's arms circle his back, and he sighs heavily from somewhere above him. I already told you I'm not gonna die. He leans his chin down on the top of Seelan's head and lets his eyes drop shut. If I agree to wear it, will you calm down and keep moving? He sniffs and pulls away, nodding vigorously. Ugh. Denmark's eyes soften, and he gets unsteadily to his feet again, a hand coming down to ruffle Peter's hair. All right, fine. But if we go through really bad areas, I want you to wear it. Got it? We'll share it. Peter nods again. You'll wear it a lot, though, right? Even when you sleep? Yeah, he sighs and reaches back behind his head, adjusting the elastic straps until the mask is secured in an airtight seal around the lower half of his face. Sheesh, you're just as bad as Finland. That's a lie and you know it. You're just on a roll today, aren't you? One of us has to be. He pulls his hood back up and slips his goggles down over his burning eyes, watching Denmark do the same. So what do we do now? Good question. What do you have in your pockets? Peter empties his coat pockets and produces only the compass and a wadded-up bandana. Denmark's jacket doesn't yield much more, but thankfully he still has their map. What else do you have in your backpack? Wait. Oof, I'm not sure who's speaking. What else do you have in your backpack? He asks. A few ration bars, that sketchbook, and... Oh, okay, so it was Denmark before. I'm stupid. My apologies. A few ration bars, that sketchbook, and the socks you got me. That magazine, and a blanket from my bed in the bunker. Fuck. Alright, hang on. Hang on to all of that for now. He turns his head up to the sky and makes a nervous sound in the back of his throat. It's getting dark too fast. We aren't going to make it much further tonight, and I really don't think we're going to find anything of use until tomorrow, and that includes a place to sleep. He holds his hands out for Peter to take, and they begin walking, Denmark wincing with each step. We'll keep to the main road for now, and try to put as much distance between us and them as we can. I know it's not ideal, but as soon as it gets dark, we'll get into the trunk of one of these cars until morning. Seelan's eyes widen. Isn't that dangerous? Yes. What if they find us? I'll kill them. I didn't read that in the right tone. You. He grips Denmark's hands tightly. What if you can't? Stop being so morbid, would ya? Denmark shoots, turning sharply to look down at him. As long as we're careful, we'll be fine. The roads here are too messed up for them to take their truck on, which means they'd have to be looking for us on foot, and if that were the case, don't you think we'd have heard them by now?" He nods firmly and turns his focus back to weaving through the cars. "We just have to be extra cautious for a while." "How long?" Denmark shrugs. "Forever, probably." Okay, this will continue in